How's it going, everyone? What's up? So today we have this Stihl on the table, which is indirectly part of this video, but it's not just this Stihl. It's that one. It's the one that's disassembled in a box. Friend next to it, friend next to that, and there are two friends up on that shelf. Problem is why I hate Stihls. I hate him for a couple reasons, and design putting aside, German be German. They do stuff for whatever reason that they want to do. And it usually is too complicated for their own good. However, there's a beauty to complications sometimes if it works properly or if it gives you a superior result or something. And having used a variety of machines for many, many of years, I've known Stihl just isn't it. You can argue that, yes, Echo weed eaters are not as powerful as Stihls, or Stihls will just blow the leaves better than a Red Max, or whatever the case may be. And on paper, maybe you're kind of right, but when the discrepancies are very, very minimal at best, let me go explaining why I think you're much better off going with a little bit lower performance on paper than anything else. I'm sorry if you're a Stihl fanboy and you love Stihl. Don't get me wrong. They could be great machines if you take care of them. The problem is they have a reputation of being a good product, and at one point they were. They were great. I had a Stihl older little handheld blower. It was great. Used it for many, many years. Sold it not that long ago, and it still ran like a day. It was brand new, and it probably had gallons, tens of hundreds of gallons of fuel ran through that machine. I don't even know. It's old, but it ran perfectly fine. This machine, for story purposes, is a landscaper's machine. That this is strictly a backup, and he bought this a few years ago as a backup because his other Stihls, coincidentally, broke down quite often, and he brought them to me, and I had to fix them. Now, being that this is a backup, he doesn't use it all that much because he is a person that I know personally. I know this is his livelihood, so when he brings me stuff, I usually try to work on it this exact same day, and I usually try to go the quickest route possible to limit the downtime. Because downtime for them is money out of their pocket. I understand that. It's a small business. If the person were to own 12 of these and one of them's down, I don't really put that as a high priority. But we're getting it besides ourselves. This is a backup machine he bought because his primary machines were always breaking down. This machine does not have many hours on it. And because it doesn't have many hours on it, it's suffering from different problems than machines who are suffering from too many hours. Let me explain. The problem for this machine is this housing right here. This housing is made from rubber and plastic. Now, over time, that rubber and or plastic will start to expand, and you can't pull the trigger, or the safety gets stuck, like it is now. You can't ignore it. I tried to clean it. I tried to shave it. I tried to do all lots of things. And unless I'm going to be shaving a whole handle off, it's just not going to work. It's just foobar. So what's the alternative? Well, we need a new handle, and we need to transfer all the stuff that's inside out of it, because when you buy a new handle, of course, or excuse me, this whole housing, you don't get the switch, the trigger, the internals, nothing. You get jack. You just get the black. You don't even get the screws. Well, maybe you get the screws, I don't remember. Point being, that part is going bad. And for this reason, we're going to have to buy a new one, which leads me to why I don't like Stihls. The parts are expensive. Just this housing, $38. Why is it $38? What is this, a piece of cheap plastic with a little bit of rubber on it? And that's the problem. Why is there rubber on there? To be ergonomic on your hand, I get that. But why isn't it in the handle where you're actually going to put your hand? Why is it right here? I mean, I understand you're putting your hand there, but guess what? I could deal with a little bit more of a callus in my hand if I know that this handle isn't going to take a crap in a few years because it's decided to swell and warp which is another thing. This handle's warped. No matter what you do, there's always going to be a bow in one of these, and it's pressing down on it as well. And then the swelling of the rubber compounds it. It's just a giant mess. Point being, overly complicated. Like I said, it could be a beautiful thing, don't get me wrong, but it's overly complicated. Two, and this is the big one, is the price. We briefly touched on that. Stihl OEM parts are crazy expensive for what they really are. I mean, maybe you can find a scenario here and there that they're not, but they're few and far between. And when you do buy or find those deals, they're crappy. They're garbage. Let's put it in perspective. In a weed eater, or in here, this has a good one, but in a lot of other models, there's a cast aluminum clip or clamp that likes to break at any point in time. At all the time, really. I keep a stock of 5 because I will go through 5 in at least one spring, and then when I get down to 1 or 2, I order 3 more online. It's stupid. Why is that? Now they did upgrade, so I will understand that they learned from their previous lesson. But let's look at a BR800X. BR800X, BR800, BR600. Their engine quality is so bad now that every year I have to tell many, many people their lowers are garbage. Straight up garbage. I'm not going to get into specifics, but they decided to use a bushing instead of a needle bearing at the crank, where the piston, where the connecting rod meets the crank. And if you don't use their specific oil specifically for this reason, which is specifically more expensive than a lot of other oils, by the way, one, you void your warranty, and two, that oil is meant for that exact reason. Normal 2-cycle oil, no. It's going to eventually start knocking. And guess what? They made the beautiful decision of making it so you can't buy any of those parts by themselves. No, 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 no. That would be a good idea. Let's make it so you have to buy the whole thing. That way we can really just rip off our customer. Like, truly rip them off. Just the way their motto is. Getting a little aside myself. Point being is they're expensive because of those stupid ideas that they have. Where, why can't I just buy a part? And why is that part super expensive? And if it is going to be expensive, at least let it be a high quality, which leads me to the third problem. The quality of these machines have greatly diminished over the last couple years, 100%. And I get it. Nothing in the world is made right now. I know. But at least everything else being not made right has a not made right price that you'd expect. And more importantly, if that not made right piece being not made right needs to be replaced by another not made right part, at least the price in that not made right part is going to be cheaper than this. And more importantly, easy to find. Want to know where you have to find parts for this? If you're lucky, you might be online, potentially eBay. Most likely you're going to have to go through a dealer, and they pass their gouging onto you because they got gouged. So everyone gets gouged. You will just happen to be the one who has to pay for all the gouging ahead of you. Technically, if you're doing this as a business or a side hustle or whatever you want to do, then now you have to pass that gouging that you were gouged on to the person that you are trying not to have gouged by helping them out. But they're going to get gouged. Going down a rabbit hole. Having said that, please stop buying Stihls. They're expensive to buy. They're expensive, and I get it. Some Echoes and Red Maxes are equally as expensive or marginally close to it, and I get it. But a Stihl equivalent is almost always a little bit more, just a little bit, but it's still expensive for what it is, and that's my point. Because of the third reason, it's just a POS. Like, the quality is not there anymore. It's not. Like, the complexity I can get over. I don't like the fact of some weird concoction of plastic pieces have to perfectly be aligned with your throttle cable being perfectly aligned. I could deal with that because if it works right, then it works right. But if the part quality that you're buying isn't there anymore, and it's just going to fail you prematurely, and you're going to have to pay a lot more to get it repaired because that again, you don't want to have to buy a new one again, and then a repair could be potentially cheaper. It puts a real sour taste in my mouth. And I get it. I work with a lot of professionals, and these are used hard. However, I can tell you, let me tell you stories. I'm not going to say names. Let's say Landscaper 1, Landscaper 2. Landscaper 1 is a guy I've been working with for about 2, maybe 3 years now. He originally had everything Stihl. I told him multiple times about his blowers that they were bad. And he eventually asked me, is there anything I should be doing? I tell him about the oil, and he still, I don't know if his guys don't use it, whatever. And then all of a sudden he brings in another one, and this machine, by the way, was purchased earlier in the year, and I think it was around my birthday. And to put that in comparison, my birthday is around the 4th of July. So it's months old. And a bad motor. Took it to the dealer, and because he didn't use because the fuel that was in there was a little bit old and they couldn't quite tell if they used the right oil, warranty voided. Didn't do anything. Didn't want to do anything. The warranty was no longer applicable, even though it said it was a year-long warranty. You didn't use the oil, you were SOL. I don't know exactly how that worked out. I think he might have gone above their heads, but whatever. Point being is, that's just not a good scenario. That's time that he's taking out of his day. He could be making money or helping or whatever he needs to do. But no, he's having to deal with Stihl customer support, which I can only imagine that route is just a horrible route to be on, but whatever. Anyway, he asked me the following, I want to say probably September. Leaves are about to start turning, and he asked me, is there anything I should be doing? And I'm like, if you are going to be purchasing new equipment, as these start to wear out and break, prematurely mind you, buy a Red Max. It's a little heavier, I get it. Your fuel cost might be a little higher, but guess what? If it does get broken, you can go to any store that sells small engine parts and pick them up. They're not hard to find. And let's say you're even that more lazy or antisocial, you don't even want to go down into a store and see a real person, you can go online. Amazon, eBay, eReplacementParts.com, all of them have this ability to give you the parts you need for a reasonable price. After that, he did bring a couple more Stihls the following year, and then over the course of time, I saw more and more Red Max, Echoes, replacing his weed eaters, and eventually he got a Timberwolf chainsaw as well. Got rid of his Stihl, I don't remember what it was, an MS250 or whatever. It's been a while. And want to know what happened to him? I haven't seen him yet. I see him for maintenance. Every year, sometimes twice a year, depending on the machine, he brings them to me. I put new spark plugs, filters, air filters, fuel filters, whatever the filter is. And I give a general overview, maybe replace a fuel line here and there because it's easy and it's cheap. He's off on his way. I never see him. And that's unfortunate for me because it's less money out of my pocket, but it's more fortunate for him because it's more money in his pocket. And now, that's just how it is. Landscaper number 2. Landscaper number 2, Stihl fanboy. Hardcore. His blood is orange. It's potentially sad. And I want to say I've been working with him for about a year and a half now. And all last summer, there's always something going on. He was the primary reason why I kept buying those clamps. They just kept breaking. Heads, I replaced so many heads on his Stihl weeders. I've replaced 2 motors on his 2 separate Stihl chainsaws. I have condemned at least 4 or 5 BR 800Xs. He just buys another one. I mean, he has the business, I guess. It's his money, so whatever. Writes it off in his taxes. I guess that's a benefit for constantly having to buy new equipment because it's not made right. Tax benefits. Who knew? Maybe Stihl will actually, start working with tax accountants. Who knows? Anyway, point is, I see this man all the time. In fact, he's going to come here tomorrow with, guess what? A BR800. That is needing a new cable replaced. And oddly enough, he brought me this cable, which is out of a BR800X, yesterday. I replaced it, and then he calls me up earlier today. He's like, "Hey, Michael, I need you to do another one." I'm like, "You mean the same one I just did? What's wrong?" He's like, No, another one. I went to the shop and I found another one that's doing the same thing. And I told him just go through his shop to make sure there's nothing else. I mean, I don't mind if he keeps coming, but he doesn't exactly live next door, and that's the expense for him. He found 2 other machines, all Stihls, 2 hedge trimmers, both of them not running right. So, Landscaper 1, I deal with maintenance. Landscaper 2, I deal with fixing and maintenance. And it just, one could say maybe the parts are bad, maybe anything else. And a lot of the parts that I get for him, I ask him if he wants OEM or aftermarket. He always says OEM, and I follow his wishes. And he also doesn't like his machines to be filmed, so I follow his wishes. But at the end of the day, tomorrow, he's going to bring me a cable, and it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem again later. It's going to be a problem again later. And that cable wasn't cheap. I think it was like $28 just for the cable. Not the whole thing, not the kill wires, not the loom, just the cable. That's stupid. You should be able to get the whole thing for that price. I mean, you can get the whole thing for that price aftermarket, but he doesn't want aftermarket, which is his own decision, of course. But point is, I'm ranting. I just want to say, if you like spending extra money on something that only on paper is probably a benefit, something that it's going to cost you a lot more in repairs, for labor and parts, by the way, because it's not easy to take these apart sometimes. And if you like poor quality stuff for expensive prices, then please keep on buying Stihls. But if you want something that's good quality for a decent price, that on paper is going to perform a little bit lower, then buy a Red Max or an Echo. Just buy anything else. Even if you need to just buy like a cheap little machine for small purposes, please just don't buy a Stihl. Because every single time you do it, it's just going to be a heartbreak. It's like buying a geriatric dog. You're going to get close to it, and then it's going to leave you. Don't do that. Why do that to yourself? Unless, of course, they need a home, then please do so. But anyway, getting away from the point. This is the reason why I don't like Stihls. So if this helped you out, please leave a comment below. Tell me what your opinion is. If you really like them, tell me why. And if it's because they work better, really ask yourself, do they? And if you still come up with yes, then yeah, let me know. I don't know. Maybe they just don't work as well in the Pacific Northwest. Who knows? Leave a comment. Definitely subscribe. Follow me on Instagram at SmallEngine101. If this helped you out, maybe you were thinking about buying a horrible idea, and you decide to go with a good idea instead because of this, leave a thumbs up. That helps me out a lot. But I will see you in the next one. Have a good night.